No, someone from Seymour and Little Shop of Horrors. You remember that? No, neither do I. But when I was trying to look it up on the that can't be the song he's looking for.
Jim Reeves.
Yeah.
I love Jim Reeves. Amazing song.
Hi. Are you doing a song before the
I
first
do
one?
all right myself.
Got your console here.
Yes, I'm all set
So
and
is
ready.
Gord all set, ready to go?
Streaming live. It's true.
All right.
I wonder why you had a puzzled look on your face.
Well, good morning, friends. Happy Mother's Day.
It's a short song.
It's always good to hear you connect to one another. Good to be together. I think we all have certain vivid images of our mothers growing up. My early memory in my first 5 years of my life was of my mother coming to the back porch and yelling out, "Supper time!" We had a field kind of right behind the house, and I used to love playing there because the bushes were high enough that my parents couldn't see me, right? And but she'd yell out, "Supper time!" So I asked Gord to sing a song for us today that brings back some of those memories. Any of you remember any mothers or somebody yelling supper time? Do you? There we go. All right. Sing it for us, Gord.
Sorry, I lost the music. There'll be just a second. There it is.
Many years ago of my childhood, I used to play till evening shadows come. And when winding down that old familiar pathway, I'd hear my mother call as son, come home, it's supper time. The shadows lengthen fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last.
Some of the fondest memories of my childhood were woven around the supper time when my mother would call from the back step, "Come on home, it's supper time." I'd love to hear that one more time, but for me, time is woven the realization of a truth that's even more thrilling, and that is when the call comes from the portals of glory to come home, it's supper time, and we'll be gathered around that table of love with loved ones we've missed at the greatest supper of them all. And so we give thanks that love, supper time, are eternal.
Come home, it's supper time. The shadows gleam fast. Come home, it's supper time. We're going home at last.
Thank you, Gord. Let's all stand and give thanks for those in our life who brought us mothering love, who saw the best in us, didn't give up on us. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Every day of my life I'm blessed. When I wake up in the morning, when I lay my head to rest, I am blessed. I am blessed. One more time. I am blessed. I am blessed. Every day of my life I am blessed. When I wake up in the morning, when I lay my head to rest, I am blessed. I am blessed. Get together, get together, get together in the Lord. Let us all get together in the Lord. Let us treat one another like sisters and brothers. Let us all get together in the Lord. Let us greet one another like sisters and brothers. Let us all get together in the Lord. So greet one another as brothers and sisters. Give one another a warm Trinity welcome.
You okay?
Yes.
Good morning. Really, Eric?
Yes, really. Really.
Come on. I know that the weatherman, the calendar says that, but the weatherman doesn't know.
Oh, you know.
Good morning. Welcome back. We missed you last
Yeah.
Sunday.
I'm still afraid to go put away my tooth.
Oh, I know, I know.
got a song for you to sing. Mother's Day can be a complicated day for some of us. Some of us didn't know our birth mother. Some of us didn't have much mothering love from the one others received it from. One of my favorite passages in the Jesus stories is when people come to Jesus in the middle of his teaching and they say, "Your mother's here to see you." And he uses the occasion to make a point. He says, "Who's my mother?" He says, "My mother is everyone who does the will of God, which is to love. My mother, my brother, my father, my sister, these are this family of people who love me." And so that's what we give thanks for. Some of you had amazing mothers. But those who didn't, love found you. Might have been a school teacher, but love found you. Somebody cared about you. Somebody saw something in you didn't see initially yourself. And so that's what we celebrate in spiritual community. Love always finds us. We'll get what we need, not the way we expect it sometimes, but it'll come. And so let's sing together. Who is my mother? Who is my brother? All those who gather around Jesus Christ. Spirit-born people, born from the gospel, sit at the table around Jesus Christ. Differently abled, differently labeled, wide in the circle around Jesus Christ. Grudges and stigmas, cultures and enigmas, all come together around Jesus Christ. Love will relate us, color or status, and segregate us around Jesus Christ. Family failings, human derailings, all are accepted round Jesus Christ. Bound by one vision, led from one vision, we claim each other round Jesus Christ. Here is my mother, here is my brother, kindred in spirit through Jesus Christ. Yeah. God be with you.
And also with you.
Lift up your hearts.
Lift them up to the Holy One.
Let us give thanks to the Holy One.
It is right to give thanks and praise.
And we have a verse for the month from Galatians chapter 6. Let's say it together. Let us not grow weary in doing what is right, for we will reap at harvest time if we do not give up. Now we sing together our opening hymn, Bring Many Names. Bring many names, beautiful and good, celebrating parable and story, holiness and glory, living the great mystery of our lives and of life, source of life and love that evolves and creates and recreates and brings harmony out of chaos, redeems our mistakes and always offers newness of life and hope. We gather here today to give thanks for your mothering love that finds its expression through the people in our lives, our mothers and those who have cared for us so well. And so as we give thanks today, we look to you to be that source as we move from this place, so that we'll always know we're cared for and loved, that you never let us go and you never let those we love and care about go. And so we give thanks and rejoice in your eternal presence of love. We pray these things as Jesus taught us to pray to our Mother and our Father who art in heaven.
Hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated.
And it's time to check in now. Do we have any celebrations today other than the wonderful day of Mother's Day? My loud, obnoxious son turned 2 on Tuesday. Let's hope he doesn't get any more loud and obnoxious. That's wonderful. He's expressive. Yeah. Expressive, yeah.
Oh, we got one over here.
I have a celebration. I am going to have another grandson. Jack is going to be a big brother in October.
Exciting.
I'm going to come out here.
This is a celebration and a prayer request, actually. I am sending my oldest daughter, Heather, off to Australia on Tuesday. She's going to live there for a year, and I'm going to miss her very much, but I'm also very nervous until she gets there, so I'm asking prayers for her to have a safe journey.
Any other birthdays or anniversaries? What do we got, Bonnie?
Bob and I celebrated 48 years last Thursday.
49 years. There we go. Fantastic. That's great. I heard there was a great party here yesterday, some fashion show, and everybody had a good time. I was glad to hear the great feedback. And thanks to, just to encourage us all, could everybody here who volunteered in some way or gave something to make that happen, could you just please quickly stand so we can give you a hand clap? Because I'd love to see you. Everybody who did something for the fashion show yesterday. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's just great. Jane.
I just want to say thanks to all the gifts that were passed out for the door prizes. I got a brush and a $50 hair salon ticket.
I should have come to this thing.
The table centerpieces were spectacular. Stiletto heels with flowers. It was so first class, and it's unfortunate Nancy's not with us today, but she did an amazing job. She put it all together. She drove the bus, and a bunch of people got on board and said, I see your vision, we're going to go in that direction. And it unfolded magically yesterday. So Nancy can't hear us, but let's give her some love. Yes.
I just wanted to say it was great to see that all the models were Trinity people or related to Trinity people, so that was pretty cool.
One celebration coming up, Helen Bell is having her birthday coming up next week on Saturday, and it's a special one. And also just a reminder, you will have seen it in your bulletin, but in a couple of weeks we will be making our meat pies. That'll be up until the fall. So we have order sheets in the back. Make sure you order them because that's it up until the fall. Thank you.
And we have a prayer request here from Marcy.
want everybody to keep my friend Joe in their thoughts. He's not doing very well this week. He'll have a lot of tests to find out exactly what's going on with him, but he's not doing very well at all. So pray for my brother.
Yeah, Brother Joe. And any others? All right, just a second, I'll come around.
I have some great news. My friend had his stem cell transplant on Wednesday. He was O positive blood type. He's now, no, he was A plus and now he A positive and now he's O positive. Took half an hour of a blood transfusion that came from Europe.
That's fantastic. In 2 weeks, on the 26th of May, some of you may remember our dear friend Sue, who started coming to Trinity some months before she passed away. She had a passion for homeless veterans, so we're going to be having the 3rd annual Sue Lush Memorial Veterans, Homeless Veterans fundraiser at the Army Navy Club on Adelaide from 1 to 4 in the afternoon on the 26th. So if you're interested in an afternoon out and to come out and support such a great cause and honor such a wonderful lady who put her heart into the veterans works here in London, if you have any questions, ask me after and I can give you more information, but it'd be nice to see some smiling, loving, friendly faces there.
And Linda.
I have an uncle who is not doing very well. He's doing his other thing of chemo, so he's kind of a little leery on it.
Hey, it's good to have Joanne and your partner back, eh? Margaret, yeah, absolutely. Great to have you back.
You were missed.
All right. Now, we're going to move into our offering time, I guess is the next day. And if you're a newcomer here, I'd invite you to fill out a guest response card you'll find in the pew in front of you with your contact information so I can be in touch with you and let you know about the programs here, and particularly times where we can get together with other newcomers to get to know each other better, and so that sort of thing. And then Tuesday night is our men's group, men's circle at 7 o'clock. So I'd love to see you there. Another great way to get to know one another better. So right up here in the parlor, and at 7 o'clock this Tuesday night. And as our offering is received, Kathy's going to sing for us, "Love Will Be Our Home."
If home is really where the heart is, then home must be a place we all can share. 'Cause even with our differences, our hearts are much the same. And where love is, we come together. Someone smiling, someone dreaming, we can live together there. Love will be our home. Wherever there are children singing, where a tender heart is beating, we can live together there. Love will be our home. With love, our hearts can be a family. Hope can bring
Thank you. You may be seated. Where's Tay? Okay. Can we have all the kids up at the front for a second here, Tyler? All right. Any of you know what Mother's Day is? What's Mother's Day?
It's when you give your mother presents.
Give your mother presents. Why would you give your mother presents? She's nice. There's a good reason. There we go. Absolutely. Yeah. Come on over. Come on and join the fun here. We're gonna have Taylor's gonna have some fun stuff for you to do. Exactly. Oh, there's my son Jackson. Hello, Jackson. Yeah, do you got a present for your mother? You're working on something. I tell you, last minute's better than no minutes, I guess. There we go. All right. How do you celebrate Mother's Day? Do you cook her something or give her a big hug or what? Or is it a surprise? Well, what are things we love about our moms and the people who care for us and that sort of thing? Do they sometimes give us hugs? Do they sometimes cook some food for us? Yeah, lots of things like that. We got a mother up there. Do you see the mother up in the picture? What kind of mother's that? Yeah. Yeah, is that a robin? Yeah, looks like it, eh? And the robin's got some hungry children there. Do you guys get hungry too? Yeah. What's one of the favorite things you like to eat? What's that? Oh, McDonald's. There we go. Yeah. Who doesn't like McDonald's? Right on. Exactly. All right. Well, you know what? All of the universe is filled with energy. And the energy is mothering energy and fathering energy that creates. Think of all the creation in the earth. And so our mothers that give us birth and the mothers that take care of us and sisters who help take care of us and grandmas who help take care of us, that's all a part of this energy we call God. And the love is always there for us, and it comes to us in many ways. Slide. And so that's what we need to realize is that even when someone dies, their love stays with us because love is forever. And so the love that you receive, you'll always have that. And the love you give, that love will always be because the whole earth, the whole universe is made in love and out of love. And so we give thanks. Slide. So let's hear some things you like about your mom, okay? My mom is. Anybody all here? My mom is kind. Great. Yes. My mom is an eternal optimist, always hopeful. That's cool. Anybody at all? My mom is, yes. Full of laughter and joy. That's great. My mom is somebody else. What? Nice. There we go. Yes. All right. So we give thanks for all the people who bring us love in our lives, especially our moms today and grandmoms. And so we're going to sing a little chorus before you go. It's thank you, God, for giving us love. All right? So let's all stand and sing it together. Key of G. So we'll sing, thank you, God, for giving us, let's say, slide. What's the next one there? Okay, let's start with life. Thank you, God, for giving us life. Thank you, God, for giving us life. Thank you, God, for giving us life right where we are. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God right where we are. Thank you, God, for giving us love. Thank you, God, for giving us love. Thank you, God, for giving us love right where we are. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God right where we are. And for our last verse, let's do thanks you, God, for giving us mums. And then our children can go to Sunday camp. Thank you, God, for giving us mums. Thank you, God, for giving us mums. Thank you, God, for giving us mums right where we are. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God right where we are. Okay, we'll sing you out as you go to Sunday camp. Thank you, God, for giving us kids. Thank you, God, for giving us kids. Thank you, God, for giving us kids. Thank you, God, for giving us kids right where we are. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God. Hallelujah, praise our God right where we are. Thank you. You may be seated.
In Joppa, there was a woman named Tabitha, who was a believer. Her name in Greek is Dorcas, meaning a deer. She spent all her time doing good and helping the poor. At that time, she got sick and died. Her body was washed and laid in a room upstairs. Joppa was not very far from Lydda. And when the believers in Joppa heard that Peter was in Lydda, they sent 2 men to him with the message, "Please hurry and come to us." So Peter got ready and went with them. When he arrived, he was taken to the room upstairs, where all the widows crowded around him, crying and showing him all the shirts and coats that Dorcas had made while she was alive. Peter put them all out of the room and knelt down and prayed. Then he turned to the body and said, "Tabitha, get up." She opened her eyes, and when she saw Peter, she sat up. Peter reached over and helped her get up. Then he called all the believers, including the widows, and presented her alive to them. The news about this spread all over Joppa, and many people believed in the Lord. Peter stayed in Joppa for many days with a tanner of leather named Simon. May we hear a word from God within these words of Scripture.
Please pray with me. Spirit of wisdom, minister to us, your people. May only truth be spoken, may only truth be heard, we ask. Amen. A buddy of mine told me a neat story. He was flying down to Atlanta, I think it was, to a preaching conference, and he couldn't help overhearing the three people in the seat in front of him. There was a boy about 10 years of age, he figured, and the boy's father and the boy's grandmother. And they were flying because their mother, the boy's mother, was the pilot. And she'd just been promoted to the senior pilot. So she was in charge of the flight crew, and this was her first flight in charge of the rest of the plane. And so they were there taking the trip to celebrate. So when the plane took off and went in the air, the 10-year-old boy said, "Way to go, Mom!" And everybody clapped, and it was cute and a lot of fun. So this is a day to say to all you moms, "Way to go, Mom," right? And we need to lift up this mothering task. And this is a day to give thanks that we're not in this on our own. So often we get tricked into thinking we're independent beings when we're not. We're like cells in a great organism. An organism sometimes we call God, this higher power, this mystery that is the source of loving warmth and nurturing, persistent, resilient love. And it comes to us in many ways. Physically is one important way. Everyone here has been given birth physically by a woman, and that is a great gift to us. We wouldn't be here without that. And physically speaking, a woman must deliver a baby to be a mother. But here's the key point. From the moment a child is born, the love that every child needs spiritually and emotionally to live and have a good life comes from many sources. Mothering love just doesn't come from birth parents. Mothering love comes through surrogate parents, adoptive parents, same-gender parents, teachers, child caregivers, nurses. Everyone who's able to surround a child with love is part of that mothering love we're celebrating together. So way to go to even those of you who don't take the label as mom. When you're involved in a child's life, an aunt or a sister, so many different ways. In many ways, my older sister was the real mom to me. And my grandmother, she was a great mom to me as well. As I've mentioned, this can be a complicated time. Complicated because we're worried about children or grandchildren aren't doing so well. Sometimes we've had a child who's died, or even a child who's committed suicide. And it's so important to realize that we are eternal beings in bodies, and that death is not the end of life. I had a psychic give me a reading one time. I came to a spiritualist event, and there was a psychic from the States. And she came late, so she didn't have a chance to talk to anybody. And she asked me if I'd like a reading. And I said, sure. And she said, I'm getting a reading from your dad. And I thought to myself, this will be interesting, because my dad wasn't capable of any love. He was a cult leader and narcissistic, and it was all about him, and we got punished for most everything. And so she said, your dad is really excited about what you're doing here in this church. And I thought, this guy doesn't know what she's talking about. And at that time, we had a large youth cohort. We had about 20 youth involved in the church here. And she said he's especially really taken by what you're doing. You must be doing a lot with youth around here. And I says, well, she got that right. And then she said, but he wants you to know how sad he is that in his life on earth with you, he could never support you and never did. Wow. But that didn't surprise me, because we're on an eternal journey. And we worry too much and we're stressed too much because we think it's all up to us and all about us. And I don't know, I've seen some wonderful moms. My wife's a wonderful mom, and from where I stand, you worry too much. You take too much responsibility. And it's good to know that we mother and have that capacity to mother because we come from a mothering God. And I want us to center into that good news today. Mothering love can come to us from so many different ways. We get too focused on gender too. Doesn't matter whether you're a man or a woman, you have male and female energies in you. And there's actually more contrast, there's more differences within each gender than there is between the genders. What I'm saying by that is you can find men who have strong feminine energies and they're very gentle. And you can find women who've got strong masculine energies and they're very strong and will lead the charge up the hill. And that's the reality. We all have this capacity to have some of that mothering love, and some men have it a lot. And so mothering love can even come to us through men. And this is a beautiful thing. The women's movement has challenged the rules and the judgments that tried to keep us all in our places. And as a result of the gains that women have made, being respected more, being able to go into the workforce and earn more equivalency to what men are making, men are benefiting too. We're losing the roles that were prescribed on us to just be tough, to suck it all in. Do you know that for the last couple of 100 years, the rulers of society, the boys that were born into the billionaires' families in England, Britain, which is kind of our background, they were always taken around age 14 and sent to boarding schools with other guys where they could be treated meanly and taught to take abuse and to suck it up and to get totally out of touch with their feminine energies. And that's what enabled them through the years to do mean and cruel things, because the loving mother energies of God were beaten literally out of them generation after generation in boarding houses of our most powerful elites. But thankfully, with the changes that are being made and where we're free to be who the Creator's made us be, listen to this. In 1976 in Canada, one family in 70 had a dad as a primary caregiver. 1 out of 70. In 2015, that has risen to 1 family in 10. Men, too, are now being given permission to share their mothering love. One of the most gentle, caring mothers, I'll get back to you female mothers in just a second. One of the most gentle, caring, mothering souls in the world was Jean Vanier, who passed away a couple of weeks ago. His father was the former Governor General of Canada, Jean Vanier. And the son was in the Navy. And he came to the conclusion that the armed forces can only protect the peace a society has already made. The rights a society have already been able to come to. And so he decided he wanted to be a maker of peace rather than just a defender of it. And so he went to France, where he had a good friend. And he came upon a special needs person who had no food and no place to live. This person's family had completely just turfed them out. And he brought that person into his home, and he had one of those great moments when he got in touch with the heart of Jesus. And he realized that when we move from control and power and all the lifestyle things we need, and we really open ourselves up to caring and being vulnerable and nurturing to someone who really can't do much of anything for themselves, we think of how we're helping them, but in the end, they save us. He discovered in caring and living together with people with high needs that he learned how to connect at a human level he'd never known before. And he says, I was never lonely again. And because he discovered that, others did too. And in the world today, there's almost 150 l'Arche communities. L'Arche is the French word for ark. And in those communities, you don't have paid staff who come and go. The staff who care for those with high needs, they all live together as family. They eat together, they do things together. And he says of the l'Arche communities, there is no loneliness, there is only joy. Mothering love. That's what we're made for. That's what we're equipped for from a God who is the ultimate mother. You know, Katharina Kennison writes a beautiful thing. She reminds us that with all the struggles and effort of mothering, it's easy to take the gifts of mothering for granted. And she mentioned some of the great gifts that we need to soak in as mothers and grandmothers, as parents. The gift of an uneventful day that begins with children leaving their warm beds to leap into our bed. How many of you remember that? Or Cheerios being poured into bowls, and a day that ends with stories and snuggles in the dark. Oh, I love those snuggles in the dark. Reading a book to the children. In between, there may be a walk to the creek, a dandelion bouquet. How many of you have given a dandelion bouquet to our moms? I mean, haven't we all done that? How about the caterpillars in a jar? Countless cheese sandwiches and impassioned renditions of the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round and round. Winter's lopsided snowman and summer trips to the Tasty Treat for cookie dough ice cream. Fingernails clipped, cowlicks pasted down with warm water. I had a cowlick. My mother had pasted down. Nose kisses and pinky swears. The smell of Johnson shampoo as our child sits in our lap. The unanswerable questions, the innocent faith, sudden tears, and infectious giggles. We can gloss over the joys of these magic moments and soak in the worries of being a parent, being a mom, worrying that if you don't carry your child back to bed after a bad dream, they'll want to sleep with you forever. Worrying that because your daughter refuses to share her dolly, she'll never play well with others. Or that awful feeling as you leave your crying child in the daycare for the first time, going belly up in the tank. Our parenting roles change in time and stages, baseball 6 times of the day. And then you discover that your 12-year-old is deliberately walking a few steps behind you, pretending they don't know who you are. And it hits you. You've moved into adolescence. All of a sudden, the child you've held and loved has changed into a sullen alien creature hunched over their meal, and you wonder what went wrong. Your mind keeps replaying the last argument you have, wondering how you could have done it better. Slowly it dawns on you that life that seemed forever, that sometimes seemed unending, has slowly slipped away. The old routines don't work anymore. It's like you're learning to dance all over again with strangers, spinning faster and faster, holding on, letting go. You do what you can to keep up. You keep the refrigerator full. You fill every blank space in your calendar, driving your kids to events. You proofread. You negotiate curfews and car privileges. Celebrate a part in the school play. Cheer the football team on without even knowing the rules. Ignore a bedroom that looks like it's been bombed. And write lots of checks to pay for proms and tuition. Try not to ask too many questions. You learn to text, to pray. The time of 24/7, zip your jackets, here's your lunch mothering by which you've defined yourself changes. And yet the love grows deeper. The wisdom grows stronger. We can trust ourselves to parent because God is parenting us. We can trust that love will be enough because God's the source of love, and the source never goes dry. That parenting is felt all through nature. The absolute wondrous miracle of birth. A calf or a foal is born. The mother's proud and licks off the newborn from top to bottom. You can see the pride in the mother's eyes. The newborn calf immediately begins to struggle and get up on those new wobbly legs. The newborn looks around and soon finds its steady supply of fresh, warm milk. How does that newborn know to go for that milk? How does a cow know how to mother? We call it instinct. But where does instinct come from? We know how to mother because God mothers us. We know how to love because God first loved us. We can have faith because God has faith in us. Present, day by day, being aware that there's a presence there in us and around us that will go farther than we can go. We don't have to be perfect, friends. We just have to keep it the kindness thing. Love will fill in the blanks. It'll all be good. Instead of regretting what's over and done, savor every minute of the life we have. If parenthood teaches anything, it teaches us we can't change our children. But as divine beings, we can change ourselves. Often parents come to me when they're tearing their hairs out and they're really worried and concerned and upset about a child or a grandchild who's really in a great mess. And they always say the same thing because it's the only thing I really know that works. I just remind them that you can't change anybody else, not even your own kid. We're like a jigsaw puzzle. And we can't change any piece in that puzzle except for one piece. The only piece in the puzzle we can change is us. But here's the phenomenal news. If you were to change one piece in a jigsaw puzzle and then put that piece in, what's going to have to happen to the pieces around it? They're going to have to change. The way we change others is by changing ourselves. When we become more loving, when we become more peaceful, when we deal with our demons, when we're able to let go of control, when we're able to learn to be more supportive and less judgmental, when we worry less, when our kids or our grandkids see us happy and relaxed for the first time, it starts to change them. It's mysterious. There's no, this happened because that happened. But over and over, as we change our lives, we change the world around us because we are all like cells in one big universal body. Everything affects everything else. Everybody affects everybody else. And so as we change, as we become more full of peace and love and grace and goodness, we become agents of healing to those we love and the world around us. All flowers bloom in their own time, a wise grandmother once said. We see the power of love in our scripture reading today. Tabitha, I don't know whether she had children, probably did, but she was known as a mother to everybody. Did you see? She just did good to everyone, it said. Cared for everyone, wherever there was a need. When she died, they were just devastated. And everybody had a quilt that she'd made or told about a meal that she'd made when they were feeling sick. And they just felt so bad. And then Peter comes, one of the apostles, and he raises Tabitha to life. Now, what we've been looking at here in the resurrection stories is that the resurrection stories aren't just about Jesus. The story we read on Easter Sunday was that when Jesus rose from the dead, the author said all the people who had died rose. So we're not talking about corpses getting up here. We're talking about the fact that love is stronger than death. That the people who have loved you, they may well have died, but I bet they mean more to you today than they did the moment they died. I know the people who love me well mean more to me today than ever before. I'm so thankful for them. And it works the same with us. Love cannot be quenched. Death is not ended. Our adventure continues. No matter what our mess-ups have been, we can let go of the guilt and learn to become whole and make new choices and take responsibility, knowing that as we do, we will affect in a positive way others and even bring joy to those who've died before us. This is the great adventure we're on, an eternal adventure that death cannot rob us of. Our mistakes cannot take away from us. There's always hope, always life, always new possibilities, always hope of redemption. Easter is the inability for love to stay in the grave. Easter is the unstoppable life and love force in all of us and in the universe. God's mothering love never gives up, never ends, is never finished with us. As Isaiah puts it, can a mother forget her nursing child? Can she have no love for the child she has born? Yes, that sometimes happens. But I will never forget you. Reassurance on this Mother's Day from the origin and never-ending presence of all mothering love. Thanks be to God. So we come to our time of prayer, a time to contemplate the love that's found us, a time to let go of our regrets, our fears, our guilt, to claim forgiveness, to claim hope, knowing that God's not finished with us and our loved ones yet. God's not finished with this world yet. And so we come with our prayers, not so God will pay attention to us, but that we'll pay attention to that spirit that's in us and around us, that's already working on our prayers. And so we think of today some of the prayers that are hanging in the front on the altar. Prayers that people will see more light and glory. Prayers for well-being and growth in therapy. For relationships to be mended. For children to come home. For wisdom. For strength to overcome physical and mental challenges with children, as well as with adults. Oh, there's many prayers in our prayer chain for healing and physical strength. A prayer for the right diagnosis so that some comfort, some healing can happen. Prayer for mom and dads who are ill, for children who are ill, for grandparents, prayers for sisters, prayers for brothers, prayers for guidance, for safety on trips, for deeper understanding, deepened relationships, inner strength to face whatever comes. Prayers for all the people who've been flooded out. Prayers of thanksgiving for strangers who come forward, motivated by that divine love within, doing the hard slogging work of filling sandbags, bringing strangers in, giving them a home because they can't sleep in theirs anymore. Prayers of thanksgiving for past struggles that have resolved themselves in ways that you never figured they could. Oh, whatever comes our way, our lives are lived connected to that divine mothering love. And so we're going to sing about it today. I invite you to join along or go to that deep place within. See if you can identify your greatest hunger, your greatest need. And then know that that spirit of love that's created you and is sustaining you now is on the job, at work, finding ways to bring that love, that answer to you. We surrender our control and we claim your sustaining goodness. We let go of our burdens, knowing that you hold us in your hand and will never let us go. And the people of God said, Amen. Our final hymn is also a prayer. Would you bless our homes and families, source of life who calls us here. In our world of stress and tension, teach us love that conquers fear. Let's stand and sing it together. Would you bless our homes and families, source of life Take with you the mothering love of God, the source of all love, which will never go dry. Take with you the inspiration of Jesus and his mother Mary, love expressed in human form. And take with you the promise of that spirit of love in you and in I this day and every day of our lives, world without end. Amen.